As we continue throughout the Percy Jackson series, we find ourselves coming to the second to last book, and that would be the Battle of the Labyrinth. Before I get started with the review, can I just say I love this title, The Battle of the Labyrinth. It sounds super epic, and it fits the book, because the book is super epic. So, as always, this is going to be full of spoilers, and because it's the fourth book in the series, so kinda can't not spoil stuff. So if you want me to convince you to read this entire series, go back to my Lightning Thief review, which I will link down below, and hopefully I will convince you to read it if the countless other videos about Percy Jackson haven't done it already. So come back when you have read the book and then we can discuss it. So we start off with this kind of like cute little moment between Percy and his mom, and he's going to a new school, kind of orientation. He's a freshman now. Yay, Percy, you made it to your freshman year. Almost. It's orientation, so it's not quite there yet, but almost. And we kind of hint that Percy and Annabeth have a date after, even though it's not a date, Mom. It's just Annabeth, jeez. But anyways, through this, we meet Rachel Elizabeth Dare, again, who we met in the last book. And she can see through the mist and see these monsters, and Percy kind of tells her about a brief little overview that Greek mythology is real, and he's the demigod son of Poseidon. So yeah, he gets attacked, and Rachel helps get him out of that sticky little situation. So yeah, Rachel. And of course, Annabeth shows up, and she sees like the school is on fire. She's like, okay, what the heck did you do now, Percy? And then she also meets Rachel, and she kind of jumps to conclusions. But anyways, Percy's in trouble. What's new? So we have to go back to Camp Half-Blood because the Titan War is approaching, because Cronus is rising and Luke is just getting really evil, and you don't know who you can trust anymore, really, because there's just spies at camp, and it's ridiculous. And we also have this new counselor, Quintus, who has a pet hellhound, Mrs. O'Leary, and you come to love Mrs. O'Leary because she's Mrs. O'Leary. And we're not really sure about Quintus to begin with, because he's new and an old demigod who survived. You know, he's probably got some tricks up his sleeve, and then we figure out he does. Then we get the whole Grover and Pan sort of thing, which I see a bit more as a side story. And as I was rereading these books, I enjoyed it, like, nonetheless. And when they found Pan, I thought it was really cool, and, you know, take care of the wildlife, people. It's an important message, like, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I see it as a side story because it's just not really as epic as the rest of what happens in this book series. But this is a tiny little thing. So throughout this kind of new game that Quintus created, we find the entrance to the labyrinth that is in the heart of Camp Half-Blood, and we figure out that that is how Luke is going to get into Camp Half-Blood and invade it and try to kill everyone in Camp Half-Blood, basically. And so, in finding the labyrinth, Annabeth finally gets the quest that she's been wanting ever since she showed up to Camp Half-Blood. And it couldn't be a harder quest. But of course, Tyson is back, and I love Tyson. I was so happy that he decided to come back into the series, and that he also got to go on the quest with them, because I really, really like Tyson, and I thought it was super cute how Percy was like rushing back, like, oh my gosh, my cabin is such a mess, I'm gonna get a 1 for my cabin inspection. And then Tyson is there, and he's got everything cleaned up. He's fixed Percy's shield that he made him, and I love Tyson. How could you not love Tyson? He's just so cute. And then along with Tyson, we kind of get the sort of edginess between Tyson and Grover, and it's kind of awkward, but at the same time, it's kind of funny at the same time, you know. Then we get into the labyrinth, and we go through some places, and we meet Hera for the first time. And if you've read the Heroes of Olympus books, you know that Hera's not really my favorite Olympian. She's not really anyone's favorite Olympian, but you meet Hera. She seems pretty decent to begin with, but not a big fan of her. She's really arrogant and kind of wants to do things her way. We also meet Janus, the god of choices, and get that whole, like, your choice is coming soon, and it's just really, you're really, like, angsty in this book. You're just, like, constantly waiting for something bad to happen, because, let's face it, something's coming. Then also going through the labyrinth, we meet this new villain Campy, I think is how you pronounce it, and the 100-handed ones. That was kind of like awesome, but also a little scary at the same time, because then we see her later in the battle at Camp Half-Blood, and we see both of them actually at the Battle of Camp Half-Blood, and it was super crazy, and I completely loved it. But wow, we're getting some ancient stuff stirred up here. Then we get to Triple G Ranch, and then we find Nico, who we found out was the son of Hades. It's super sad because Nico used to be this cute little kid who loved like a trading card game, and then he's just really sad. He wants his sister back, and he's trying to figure out more about his family, and Nico's a really sad kid, and it's just depressing. Also, going along with the depressing theme, we get to see Bianca's ghost, and we figure out about Nico's fatal flaw, which is starting to become like real prevalent because the big three, their flaws are going to be used against them. Cronus is going to use them in some way, or try to. We also see Annabeth's flaw come out again when she meets the Sphinx, who is quizzing her, and she's like, this is an insult to my intelligence. Like, these aren't riddles, these are just like trivia questions, and she's just getting all ticked off. It's just like, Annabeth, just answer the questions and then argue with the Sphinx later, because sometimes, Annabeth, I love you to death, girl, but sometimes. Then we meet Hephaestus, another Greek god, and he's kind of a dick. He's kind of like, I don't deal with organic life forms, I only deal with machines. But at the same time, I kind of get where he's coming from, but it's the same with gods getting demigods and mortals to do their bidding, and I was kind of annoyed with him, but at the same time, he wasn't completely bad. I mean, as far as gods go, he could have been worse. And then we get to the point where we start separating. Grover feels the presence of Pan, and he and Tyson go to follow that, while Percy and Annabeth follow the mechanical little spider to Hephaestus's old forge in Mount St. Helens. Then we get to the forge. We find out that it's being overrun with some of the like sea demons. It's like telekines or something like that. We find that it's overrun there, and then we just separate again, and I'm just like, guys, just stop separating, please. And then, they have to get everywhere. Annabeth's like, Percy, I'm gonna come with you. He's like, no, you have to go and get the information from Hephaestus, and blah, blah, blah. And then she kisses him, and we get our first Perciveth kiss. A lot of Perciveth angst in this book, by the way. It's kind of frustrating, but at the same time, it's like, hooray for Perciveth! But then right after the kiss, Percy causes an explosion in order to get away from the monsters, and then he lands on Calypso's island. What the heck? And I found Calypso's story kind of sad, she gets heroes that can never stay, but at the same time, but Perciveth, you can't get away from Perciveth, and I was happy that Percy was like, I can't stay, I have responsibility, and I have friends who need to know that I'm alive, and I have my mom. Like, he's a really responsible kid, but at the same time, you could see how much it hurt him, and him saying that she would always be my biggest what if. And I think it was really strong on Percy's part, because he could have escaped this whole prophecy, and especially a lot more heartache when it comes to the Heroes of Olympus series. But he continued to fight, and he did what was right, and I think that's really important in Percy's character, and I just loved him so much. So then he goes back to Camp Half-Blood, and he kind of interrupts his own funeral, which I thought was really funny. But, it's a funeral, so it's kind of sad too, but Annabeth was like, he's probably the best friend I ever had, and he's standing right there. Everyone just turns around and is like, Percy, you're alive, hooray! Then we also realize that in order to navigate the labyrinth, we need Miss Rachel Elizabeth Adair. And let's just say Annabeth isn't too happy about that happening, but in order for, the quest to succeed, we need her. And there's just all that tension between Annabeth and Rachel, and I mean, I love Annabeth to death, but oh my god, Annabeth, you are so rude to this poor girl. And then we end up finding Luke and seeing how, after he got pushed off the cliff in the Titan's Curse, he's looking pretty good and pretty confident. And then we also have Percy's fight with the giant Cyclops, and it's always fun, and Percy's just so smart. Like, he really doesn't get enough credit sometimes because he is really smart. And then, of course, we are introduced to the character of Ethan Nakamura. I think that's how you pronounce it. Ethan Percy spares his life, and Ethan totally backstabs him and is a total bitch. And, oh, I hated him. And, oh, I just wanted to throttle that kid because, like, do you know what you just did? You basically just killed everyone. Oh, I can't believe he did that, especially after Percy saved his life. I hate people like that. Can I just say that? I hate people who backstab you. And then we end up finding Daedalus's workshop. And we figure out that Quintus is Daedalus. I didn't see that coming. I don't know how I don't see it coming, but I didn't see Quintus as Daedalus, and the whole, like, he was an automaton, and that was just super creepy, but kind of cool at the same time. And of course we had before throughout the story the dreams that Percy was having of Daedalus, and that was just super creepy and like really, really dark. Like I said, these books keep getting darker as Rick Riordan continues to write. But yeah, it's Quintus, and then we figure out that Luke has got the string and is about to go attack Camp Half-Blood. So we quickly leave there. Nico joins the crew because King Minos wanted to get Quintus, or Daedalus, and yeah, I never really liked that guy. I mean, no one ever does. And then we also meet up with Grover and Tyson. We find out more about Rachel's background. So we find those guys, and we find Pan, and then Pan actually ends up dying. And that's just, it was depressing. But like I said, it's more of the side story. But then we get to Cronus finally rising, because Ethan pledged himself to Cronus, and that was the final person that they needed to raise Cronus. And then we figure out, on top of all that, that it's Luke. And I didn't even know. I didn't see that Cronus was going to possess Luke, and that's just kind of depressing and sad all over again. And I love how Percy was like, I didn't even think twice about like wanting to fight him. He's just like, I'm out. Seriously, there's no fighting Cronus. That's how scary he was. And then of course we have the epic battle at Camp Half-Blood. And it was really, really sad because a lot of people died in this, and but it was an epic battle, and of course Rick Riordan never ceases to surprise me with his epic battle scenes. And then of course at the end we kind of get like a little calm before the storm scene. We have Percy's birthday, and then Poseidon comes, and I thought that was super cute. But yeah, I just thought that was really nice of Poseidon to show up, even if it was kind of warning Percy some shit's about to go down. And then we kind of figure out that Nico has a plan that is pretty dangerous, and we're just kind of left with that before we get to the final installment in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. Alright guys, so tell me what you thought down below of this book. I really like this book. I don't know if it's my favorite in the series. I don't like to pick favorites out of a series, but if I did, it might be this one. It might also be the last one. Overall, I really, really like this book. So much happened in it. So as always guys, have a great day, read a great book, and I'll see you all later.